The film opens in a quiet Irish town located about 6 miles from the hills. Farming was the main livelihood here, and the town was well known for an old legend connected to a man named Peter. As the story goes, in the 19th century, Bram Stoker once visited this place, and after listening to the tale of Peter, he went on to write the novel Dracula. In the fields near the town stood an ancient cairn that had existed for hundreds of years and was believed to be Peter's grave. The villagers never disturbed this cairn because they strongly believed in the legend linked to it. According to the story passed down through generations, many centuries ago, there lived a man called Peter who looked like a zombie and survived by drinking human blood. He was eventually killed by a local leader named Kahan, who buried Peter's body beneath this monument and covered it with stones so that he could never return to life. People believed this tale for centuries, and even in the present day, many locals still accept it as truth. When Dracula became widely popular in the late 19th century, the town itself also gained attention. The cairn slowly turned into a tourist attraction, drawing visitors from across the world. A nearby bar was even named after Bram Stoker. At this bar, 2 young men named Eugene and William were drinking. Eugene was jobless, had no money, and lived alone in his house. William had recently completed his university studies and was working temporarily at the construction company owned by Eugene's father. They shared a close friend named Claire, who worked at the bar as an attendant. All 3 dreamed of leaving the town, as they felt it was a terrible place to live. One day, 2 tourists from Canada arrived at the bar and clearly seemed to have plenty of money. Noticing this, Eugene decided to take them to see the cairn. While guiding them, he narrated the story of the monument, claiming that Peter was the very first vampire in the world. He added that whenever someone came near the cairn, blood would begin to flow from people like water. William added that the cairn had been standing on his father's farmland for centuries. He also said that if someone pressed their ear against the stones, they could still hear Peter speaking. William encouraged the tourists to try it themselves. As soon as one of the tourists leaned in and placed his ear against a stone, a hand that looked like a vampire's suddenly grabbed his head. Terrified, the tourists screamed and ran away in fear. At that moment, Eugene and William's 4th friend, Sap, appeared from inside the cairn. It turned out to be nothing more than a prank meant to scare the tourists. Furious and swearing at the group, the tourists left the place. Later on, Sap said that at least once in his life, he wanted to see what was actually hidden beneath the cairn. William replied that if the bypass road project moved forward, the cairn would eventually have to be destroyed. Then we'll see what is there. Eugene's father, Francis, was a contractor who had a construction company called Moffat Construction. Sap and William were road workers there. He was building a bypass road for which the demolition of the cairn was necessary, as the cairn was in the middle of the road. The next day, we see Eugene in his home, which is adjacent to his mother's farm field. Eugene's mother's family had been dedicated to farming for centuries. The old house of Eugene's mother was also in the field where he lived as a child. The relationship between Eugene and Francis was strained. Eugene's mother had passed away and she was divorced. Francis was not a good father, never took care of his son properly, and because of this, there was resentment in Eugene's heart towards Francis. Eugene inherited his mother's house. Francis now offers him a job in his company, hoping to use Eugene and William to pressure William's father, George, who is against the demolition of the cairn. We see Eugene entering a huge underground barn in front of his house, which had been there for centuries in different forms. There he finds an opening that used to connect to the town's sewer system. Eugene finds a human skull there, which looked old and with half of it missing. Later, we see William and Eugene in the same bar where William planned to move to Australia as he had an offer from an Australian company that was willing to pay more. Meanwhile, Claire had also lost her job and would join the boys working on the road the next morning. As William was drunk, Eugene helps him get home. On the way, they start arguing and fighting over Claire, as both were in love with her. Eugene wanted William to propose to her, otherwise he would do it himself. They quarrel near the cairn where William's hand hits a stone with sharp edges and he begins to bleed. At that exact moment, both hear George's scream as one of his bulls was attacking him. The bull charges directly at William, goring him with its horn, resulting in his immediate death. George arrives and pulls the bull away from William, but it is already too late. Eugene observes a strange phenomenon. All the blood pouring from William's body was being absorbed by the earth as if someone were sucking it from below. The next day, the police investigate the case and William's funeral takes place. The townspeople blame Eugene for William's death and were unhappy with the road project, as it would result in the demolition of the Chiron of which Eugene was a part. Later, Eugene, Claire, and Sop begin their routine work. After a few weeks, the project reaches the location of the Chiron. George was still unwilling to leave his home or agree to the demolition of the Chiron, which was directly obstructing the road project. He insists that Eugene do not demolish the Chiron, as he believes this could resurrect evil. He warns him and enigmatically questions Eugene about William's blood when he died, to which Eugene does not answer as he feels guilty. Eugene now orders his colleague, Gabriel, to demolish the Chiron, but like many in the town, he is also afraid and refuses. Faced with this, Eugene decides to demolish the Chiron himself. At night, we see Eugene and Claire getting closer to each other, and Claire begins to like Eugene. At the construction site, we see Charlie, the night watchman. When someone knocks on his cabin, when Charlie opens the door, there is no one there. He screams angrily into the air, frustrated. As he returns to his cabin, we see his blood splattering on the window, indicating that someone has killed him. The next day, Frankency assigns Eugene to take care of the work as he is leaving town to solve a problem. Then Eugene and the others notice that someone has rebuilt the Chiron. Charlie was also missing. Eugene is confused and goes back to the drawing board to come up with a new plan to save the Chiron. When Frankency arrives at night and sees that no work has been done, he screams in anger at Eugene and rejects his new proposal, saying he is not an engineer. He orders him to destroy the Chiron again. Now we see Charlie in the cabin. He appears to be sick. Eugene was taking him to the hospital in a van when the sun went down. Charlie transforms into a vampire and attacks Eugene, causing an accident. Frankency, Claire, Sap, and Gabriel help Eugene, and then all the lights in the place go out. Eugene explains Charlie's vampiric behavior, but no one pays attention to him. Frankency goes to turn on the lights, but someone kidnaps Gabriel. Eugene is looking for Charlie in the cabin when he is violently attacked by him. Claire arrives just in time and starts hitting Charlie with a measuring stick. She drives the end of the stick into Charlie's heart, causing his heart to exit his body. Eugene and Claire flee in panic, while Sap and Frankency find Gabriel's body. He was also dead. The group goes into despair as they do not know what is happening. Now, Charlie appears from the cabin with the stick pierced through his chest and his heart exposed. He has become a zombie similar to Peter. The group grabs Charlie by the stick and throws him into a hole. Even in this situation, Charlie does not die. Charlie climbs the stick and begins to come out of it. Claire dumps a bunch of mud over him with the help of a JCB, but that doesn't work either. He starts to emerge from the mud. Eugene asks Claire to drop stones on him coming from a neighboring cairn as a last resort. Claire does this, and this time Charlie is buried. This means that he is transformed into a zombie, and the only way to end them is to bury them with stones, like a cairn. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief for a few minutes. They are now convinced of Peter's legend. This had been happening since Eugene destroyed the cairn. The four notice movement in the original cairn, and the foot of the real Peter emerges from within it. As Claire demolished the original cairn to dump stones on Charlie, this ended up freeing Peter. Seeing this, the four run away to save themselves. They reach George's house and explain everything to him. George does not seem surprised. He suggests they inform the police. Eugene tries to do this, but cannot explain properly. Later, George reveals the truth. He had locked William in a room as he had also turned into a zombie, just like Charlie. He was quite violent, and George fed him animals every day. George was a funeral agent and was preparing William's body at home. That night, William rose as soon as the sun set, a fact confirmed by George's wife, Pauline, who had been in shock since then. A small stone was stuck in William's hand when he fought with Eugene. George says that people do not become zombies just by being bitten by a vampire, but they become zombies through the cutting of Peter's stones. George had a fake body at William's funeral. He also confesses that he attacked Charlie in the cabin and that he was the one who turned him into a zombie by scratching him with Peter's stone. George's cottage was in the middle of the road project, and he was trying to stop it at all costs. That's why he made Charlie a zombie so he could attack everyone, which could result in the project being halted. As he says all of this, George begins to cry. As for him, William is still alive. He thought his zombification was a medical condition that could be cured. He did not want to lose his son. The four were shocked to hear this, as they did not expect it even in their dreams. Eugene comforts George and says that what is in that room is not William. William is gone. This zombie is just a curse. The four comfort George and convince him. Their plan now was to attack William with force so that he would faint and they could place stones on his body, as this idea was written in the novel Dracula. Here, Frankency disagrees, suggesting a dark, creative idea, which would be to desiccate William. This way, it would be easier and he could be placed in a coffin. For this, they prepare a coffin with extra planks. George is ready with an axe. Eugene goes to William's room, opens the door, and runs back. William follows him, but does not advance as he realizes their trick. Some memories still remain inside him. Claire then grabs Eugene's hand and provokes William, as she knew he liked her. William moves forward angrily. George is about to strike his head with the axe when Pauline hits him from behind. She was awake and perceiving William as her son. In her innocence, she approaches him, but the zombie William attacks and kills her. The others flee the house upon realizing that the plan has failed. In a hurry, Eugene forgets to bring the car keys. William now exits the house and George shoots him to distract him, but it doesn't help as he does not die. George does not want to die by a zombie's bite, so he tries to kill himself with a gun. William ends up attacking him and devours him alive. Here we see the town police officer who was sleeping in his house. Upon waking up due to the urge to urinate, he realizes that something is wrong and notices he is bleeding heavily. The others have returned home and are hiding. Sop and Eugene are hiding under the coffin in the funeral parlor. Claire and Francine are hiding in the room. When William is checking a coffin, Eugene drives a nail into his head. Sop pushes him into an empty coffin and screams for help. William strikes back, ripping Sap's belly open, causing him to start bleeding. Later, Claire, Eugene, and Francine attack William and manage to place him in a coffin. They close it with many nails. But in the midst of all this, Sop was severely injured and dies due to excessive blood loss. Eugene and Claire cry as they lose two of their childhood friends in just 2 months. But the work is not yet finished. They bury that coffin next to George's house and dump stones on top of it. Now the real Peter who emerged from that coffin roamed the town, sucking the blood of all the people. The bar owner, the tourists, the police, and the ordinary citizens started bleeding, with blood streaming from their bodies into the sewer. Francine, Eugene, and Claire now go to visit Claire's house, where Claire's mother was bleeding while sleeping. The three were away from Peter, so they were not bleeding. Eugene now feels that Peter might be heading towards the opening in his barn, the same opening where he found the skull and many other bones, which was connected to the sewer. He imagines that initially the blood flows and later the bodies might also flow. Francine and Eugene now visit the old house. Francine also begins to bleed as soon as he gets there, which means Peter was nearby. However, Eugene, strangely, was not bleeding. Francine observes an old portrait hanging and says that Eugene's mother was a descendant of Kahan, the chief who buried the real Peter. Francine concludes that Eugene may have Kahan's blood, and that is why he was not bleeding. In this terrible situation, Eugene and Francine approach each other. Suddenly, Peter appears and begins to attack them. Peter strikes back and breaks Francine's leg with an axe. Eugene escapes from his room and strikes Peter repeatedly, leaving him unconscious. He then flees with Francine. Both run to the same underground barn where they found the skull. It was almost morning. According to the novel Dracula, vampires burn in the light of day, but none of this happens here, as that was purely fiction. Francine and Eugene were now trapped, unable to run anywhere. Francine asks Eugene to rip off his own leg and use it to attack Peter. Eugene initially disagrees, but eventually ends up doing it. He attacks Peter with the human leg and dumps stones on him. By burying him under the stones, Peter finally dies. Eugene tightly ties Francine's leg to stop the bleeding. As soon as Peter dies, the rest of the population of the town regains consciousness. The majority had been unconscious due to blood loss. The story now jumps forward 3 months. Claire is preparing to go to Australia. Eugene says goodbye to her. Francine is now living with Eugene. They have renovated the house together. Peter's tomb is still in the underground barn in front of his house. Thanks for watching.